Hi, everyone. Hi, this is Mary Ann from UNA-pologetically connecting with you today and doing a live. It's been some time, but I wanted to make sure I hop on and discuss feeding your inner child trauma, right? It's such a big topic to really have a conversation about. So, if anybody is on, definitely hop on, comment, ask questions. I would love for this to be an interactive live today as we move on. I know I just kind of hopped on today and didn't give anybody the warning, but if anybody's out there, definitely say hi and comment on whatever I might be talking about and discussing today because it can be heavy. And not only are we going to talk about the inner child, but we're also going to be talking about forgiveness. And forgiveness tends to be a really tough topic for a lot of people. So I'll give it a few moments where people can hop on. I am on Instagram and I am on Facebook as well. So again, if you see me diverting eyes, it's because I'm on both channels here. And just wait a couple minutes. And I hope you guys are all having a wonderful day, even though here in Connecticut, we were getting snow, which is not fun. Okay, so let's start getting into it, right? So thank you all here for joining me on Unapologetically and on Transforming Hearts PLLC. And today we're going to be speaking about feeding your inner child trauma. And as well, I'm going to add a few components regarding forgiveness. So it tends to be a heavy topic, but I think it can be very informative as well because not everyone is aware of these type of things, and it's learning how to be aware of the inner child that wants to come out and how we might be feeding it, and almost giving our trauma the satisfaction it might need, and whether or not we realize those things, right? And that's important for us to realize, because when we are feeling triggered, we want to be able to know, how do I handle those triggers? Who's responsible for those triggers and managing it? And how can I shift from not feeding the inner child trauma to helping it and guiding it, especially as adults? So as adults, we have the responsibility to really heal and resolve our traumas, and no one else is responsible for that besides yourself, right? But what happens when we kind of ignore that and we constantly feed our traumas, or maybe are not aware of how we are feeding that inner child trauma, right? And if this is resonating for anybody, definitely type in, or, put the little emojis like, ooh, here, I felt that. Because again, it can run deep, and all of us, everybody has gone through different things in life. And how we really manage those things are really important, because what we don't realize is that, or we do, is that hurt people, but you may not know how you might be hurting people if you are in the midst of reacting to your trauma, or your inner child who is experiencing that, and now as an adult you're impulsively like going with it because, again, maybe you're not aware of that inner child kind of yearning or fighting its way through. What we also don't really realize is, oftentimes, if you have been following me for quite some time, is that I often talk about alignment. And a lot of times we tend to be aligned with the things that our inner child really wants, right? So if we're going through relationships over and over and we're like, why do I keep picking the wrong person? It's maybe there's something going on with your inner child when it's picking the person, and that alignment is where you are, and you're not even recognizing what that inner child needs and why it keeps going back to the same type of people. And that is what is going to resonate unless you become aware of what your inner child is seeking out. And it's going to focus on what it needs, right? The things that you're feeding it, what it needs. So if it's approval, validation, if it's love and nurturance, if it's acts of service, whatever the inner child might need, that is what it's going to look for. And you may not realize it. You might just have this idea and this notion like, I'm not sure why I keep floating around in the same area with the same people, but your inner child very much so knows it needs to be fed whatever it's feel like it had lacked in the past. So if you reflect on your childhood and reflect on some of the things that you wanted as a child and did not receive as a child, those are the things you want to pay attention to, because those are the things that the most you might be connected with when it comes to other people. And the people that you might be seeking are the people that is saying, so for instance, if I didn't get nurturance in my childhood, then I would be probably seeking somebody who's providing me the nurturance that I'm looking for. And it might mean I might turn a blind eye to all the other aspects of that person because I am seeking what that person is giving me. And because that person is giving me it, forget about all the rest, all the other red flags that they may have, because I'm getting this. And that's important to feed my inner child trauma. As an adult, what we want to recognize is what feeds that inner child and what is going to help heal it. But as an adult, thinking, I need the whole thing. I don't need just this. I need all the other aspects that are healthy, that are vibrant, that are going to also help heal my trauma in a positive way. Not that it's just feeding the trauma and now I feel powerful because of this, but everything else is making me feel low and making me feel like I'm not enough, right? So you want to be able to know what it is that is feeding your trauma and how you tend to feed it. So again, if you are going back, if there's a place that triggers you and you know it provides some sense of triggering, and maybe it feels like it's positive, because that's the place that I feel the most validation. That is the place where I feel like, I know that I'm right about this, so therefore I'm going to continue with it, right? It's about knowing that and how how you might be feeding into that needing of the validation in order to feed your trauma, and not realizing that what you're doing when someone is blocking you from saying, hey, it's not a big deal, you want to know how you might be reacting to everybody else, because hurt people hurt people. And what you might be doing is, in your need to feed that trauma, you are also maybe disrespecting everybody else in the process, because you haven't learned to forgive, or you haven't learned to heal, and you haven't learned that you are actually feeding that trauma just for the sake of the validation, and not realizing how you are reacting to everyone else who tries to block it, because you need to feed it and feel powerful. And feeling powerful and feeling validated can be such a big thing for people who has experienced trauma in a certain type of way. And feeling validated feels good and feels comforting, but who are you stepping on to get it? And what are you doing to get there just to feed that inner child? Because there's so many other ways that you can do that and receive the validation. And it doesn't have to be in a negative or an unhealthy way. And you don't have to hurt people in the process either. So let's go into forgiveness for a second, right? Like, what does forgiveness have to do with this portion of it? Well, the thing is that, oftentimes when we talk about forgiveness, we're not just, most people will relate forgiveness into forgiving the other person, right? Forgiving the other person for what they've done. You have a right to be upset. You have a right to be angry. You have the right to feel what you feel. But forgiveness isn't just about the other person. The forgiveness is about yourself. and you having allowed yourself to maybe be part of certain situations for so long. Maybe there was a part of you, even especially as a children tend to feel they're the most vulnerable, right? And oftentimes um, they may not speak up. And but we whatever occurred in childhood and you didn't speak up, and as adult, if you're feeling like you constantly need that power and control, one of the what where forgiveness kind of comes in. It's saying, I forgive myself for, number one, not knowing how to handle that situation, how to express myself, but I forgive myself for holding on and feeling like this was my issue or my problem, and I'm feeding myself that energy constantly to remain angry or to remain in that emotional state, when if I allowed myself to let go, I can't, that person is going to deal with their issues in their way, right? Like they have to deal with that, and you do too, to a certain amount, because the trauma happened to you. But it's about you having held onto it for so long and feeling like you could correct the issue. The issue was long and gone, but you're holding on to the energy that's tied into it, and now it's causing not only you pain, but you're now causing indirect pain to everyone else around you. So it's almost like you're traumatizing other people because of what you're dealing with or what you dealt with. So when you learn to forgive yourself for holding on for so long, and almost punishing yourself for it, or you think you're going to forget, you're not going to forget the trauma. You're not going to forget what was done to you. And a lot of people feel like, well, if I forgive, then I'm making myself vulnerable to those people. Absolutely not. It's not for them. It is for you. It's about you learning how to let go of certain things so that way you can heal and you can move forward. You're blocking your own healing by allowing that person or that thing or situation to happen to have so much energy and have so much impact on you in your life that you're not living your life to your best potential, because you cannot let go and forgive yourself from holding on for so long. I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but if it does, let me know. You want to be able to let go and forgive yourself for not being aware of how this could actually have been impactful, not only to you, but to other people. And it tends to be the hardest thing we do, because oftentimes we think, again, we're going to let go or not remember. You will remember your trauma. It will be there, but you don't have to hold on to the energy that is tied to that, because that is blocking you from your own potential. You have the right and you deserve to live your life the happiest it can be. But how can you live your life the happiest it can be if you're also so angry and displacing your anger to other people, and you're holding it on each and every time like if it's a badge of honor? It is not. It is hurtful. So try to understand how you feed your inner child trauma. And it I always find it interesting when I hear people say, "Well, I'm working on that." How? How are you working on yourself? And those a lot of times tend to be the people, not all the time, that are working it by themselves, versus saying, I'm seeking therapy for it, or I'm doing a different form of therapy. Maybe I'm doing it art therapy. Maybe I'm doing equestrian therapy. Maybe I'm just doing another way to express myself, because maybe talk therapy isn't for me, which is okay. But you're doing something about it. Most times the people who don't go in for any form of therapy and say, I'm working on it by myself and I'm reading these self-help books, it's going to be hard for you to be the person outside of yourself being able to identify these struggles if it's just you've been living with it for so long. And you have to have a great way, or the great ability to be very self-reflective. And a lot of people have a hard time with pure, genuine self-reflection. It doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means that you have to work extremely hard. It's almost harder. It's almost easier to go to therapy, and it doesn't mean therapy is easy, because when you are working on your healing process, it's not easy, especially when you're genuinely want to heal, right? You're going to feel it, but you want to be able to go to feel it so that you can work through the process, not go around it like you've done everything else. Because then you're never really working on yourself. You're just trying to find the shortcut to get through it so you can deal about your life. But again, who are you hurting in the process of it? Because hurt people hurt people. So I know today's topic was heavy, and I see a few yeses saying yes, that this resonates. And I want you to understand that there are people that can help you, support you during these moments, and help you heal through that process as well. And you want to be more self-reflective and learn how to do that, and say, well, every time I'm at a place and maybe other people are seeing something that I'm not seeing, because if everybody's saying, hey, chill, and I'm still like, no, 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 that might be a place of trigger. You might be triggered in that place, not realizing it, because maybe you feel so good, but that might be the way that you're feeding your inner child, is because you're feeling so good about it, because your trauma is like, ooh, that was a relief. We almost didn't have to, we almost didn't get the validation that we needed. So, ooh, but we got it. We're good for a little bit, or we're good until tomorrow, or we're good until 2 days from now, or we're good into next week. But then when you start feeling the jitters again, and like needing that validation, because maybe throughout the week it was so tough and you didn't get the validation that you wanted, then you need to go back to that spot that re-triggers you again, because you're feeding the trauma, and that trauma needs to be fed. And then when you do, it's like, whew, that was close, right? So learn that those might be the spots that actually trigger you, and you are responsible to work on your own triggers, to identify what your triggers are, and to work on that yourself. No one else is responsible for that. It's you. And if you're having a hard time with that, seek the support and help that you need, and be willing to be open. And if you're not, then you are also choosing to hurt people in the process to satisfy your trauma. So I hope today's live was helpful in some ways. And I'm always open to feedback and conversation even after. So definitely comment, ask questions. I'm here for whatever your needs are. And until next time, this is Marianne Francis, LMFT, from UNA-pologetically and Transforming Hearts, PLLC. And I will see you